Kunal Kamra says he will not apologize. And why should he? He cracked the joke. That's what comedians do. Shinde doesn't seem to get the joke. And many of those in power, particularly in Maharashtra, seem quite outraged. Now, where does one draw the line? And if every comedian starts self-censoring, then what's the future of stand-up comics at all in this country? Why make this such a hazardous profession? Shouldn't netas just have the ability to laugh at a joke, or even if they don't like the joke, just look the other way? Or conversely, has Kamra gone too far? Joining us to talk about this on the broadcast, I want to welcome Rajiv Nigam. He's a writer and a humorist and a satirist. I have Kushal Mehra. He's the host of the Karwaka podcast. I have Nasir Abdullah on this broadcast. He's a well-known actor. I have Rasik Chopra. He's a comedian. I have Advaita Akala joining us, screenwriter, author. And I have Professor Anand Ranganathan joining us on this broadcast. I want to start by asking Professor Ranganathan about what he thinks of Kunal Kamra's jokes. 45 minutes long. Nobody particularly pays attention to him ordinarily, except because of the manner in which Maharashtra politicians, particularly Eknath Shinde, have reacted. Now everybody is going and looking at that clip, looking at that video, giving Kunal Kamra much more airtime and mind space than he would have got. Have our netas really scored a self-goal here, or do you think Kamra went too far? Anand Ranganathan.
Good evening, Rahul, and good evening to my fellow panelists. Look, first of all, I unequivocally condemn the violence, intimidation, and vandalism that followed Kunal Kamra's show. And let me also say this, in going after him or arresting him, all what the state would be doing is to become another Kunal Kamra. The state has to be better than that. Democracy should always be better than its delinquents. And in Kamra versus state, if I can term it that way, there are two entities and both merit going into briefly. Rahul, look, as a free speech absolutist, I am fundamentally against the state stifling free speech of a citizen through force, coercion, threat, or by quoting the Constitution. Kamra, who now foolishly is brandishing a copy of the Constitution like Rahul Gandhi, doesn't even know that the First Amendment of it, brought by the dictator Nehru, is what is responsible for curbing free speech in this country. The reality is, Rahul, that we don't have a constitution that respects dissent. We have laws and articles and amendments that, rather than protect the rights of the dissenter, protect those who violate his rights. Everything is grey. Everything is subject to something. Everything is primed for offending religious or someone's sensibilities. Rahul, if I am not in jail right now, it is because the state has decided that I need not be jailed. Truth be told, the hate that some have towards free speech absolutists like me is like the hate believers have towards Darwinian atheists. There is even a psychiatric term for it, guilt of inadequacy. They feel embarrassed at being irrational and therefore inadequate, believing, for example, in flying horses and immaculate conception when science tells you that is impossible. And because they fear being exposed as hypocrites, they label free speech as a utopian concept. Opponents of free speech are believers of the grey because that lets them wallow in their hypocrisy. A free speech absolutist never condemns or punishes anyone for being hateful or offending religious or other sensibilities, for the simple reason that who decides what is offensive? Who decides what is sensible? Who decides what is hate? How can freedom be subject to anything? Now let me quickly come to Kunal, the hypocrite. He calls Shinde a traitor, but not Udhav, who, spitting at the founding principles of Shiv Sena, formed an alliance with arch political enemies, Congress and the NCP, just to get power. So that's not treachery. But Shinde restoring Shiv Sena's first principles is. Kunal is a coward because a stand-up who should be standing up for the rights and free speech of citizens is right now hiding and lying low in a state that arrests dissenters, activists, journalists, publishers at the drop of a hat. He never dares open his mouth against the DMK when it arrests YouTubers because they conduct a controversial interview. Against the Congress when a man is arrested for merely calling a politician penguin. Against the TMC when a professor is arrested for sharing a Mamata cartoon and acquitted after 11 years. So according to these rent-a-penny stand-ups who say they speak truth to power, only Modi is in power. Kejriwal, Mamata, Stalin and Vijay are not in power. Kamra has a constituency, Rahul, and feeds it and is fed through it. He constantly mocks Hinduism and Hindus, but deleted all his jokes on Islam and Muslims. Kamra enjoys the suffering of others at the hands of the state, even as he wants them to protest against his suffering at the hands of the state. He enjoyed the persecution of Nupur for merely quoting hadith just 10 seconds. And not only did he not stand up for Kangana Ranaut when the might of the state bulldozed her property to avenge her remarks, Kamra actually mocked her suffering, took sadistic pleasure at the state's illegal barbarity, boasting that he enjoyed watching the bulldozing. But as I said, the state must not become Kamra. It needs to protect Kunals and not go after them. True test of a liberal democracy, Rahul, is standing up for illiberal marauders of common sense like Kunal Kamra.
Well, okay. So you've set up the preamble for this debate, saying the state should not do what Kamra did. But isn't Kamra Rasik Chopra entitled to his opinion? You may like him, you may dislike him. He has a certain point of view politically. Be that as it may, why should studio be vandalized? Why should he have to hide in Puducherry? He's there because he wants to be at this moment. Why should he have to face this FIR?
Hey Rahul, good evening. Good evening to everyone else. Yeah, look, I think if saying something offensive and deeply hurtful was a crime, then most parents would be required to send their teenagers to jail. And now look, I get it. If you're in power and you're on the receiving end of a joke that's hurtful, that's not nice for anyone to experience, right? But I get it because I've spent hundreds of hours on stage trying to make people laugh. And if there's 999 people in that audience who are laughing and there's one guy who's not, it takes everything in me not to focus on that one guy, right? Even though I know in that moment by focusing on that one guy, I'm not serving the 999 people who actually value what I'm doing. Now, if you're a politician, I get it. It's really hard. I couldn't be a politician, right? It must be really hard to get elected. It must be really hard to show up every day and do work and still have all these people criticizing you. I get it, right? But I think you're in power in what I believe is one of the greatest countries in the world. And if you focus on the 999 people who value what you're doing, then our country can be even greater. So I think what anyone should do when they hear a joke that they don't like is do what my daughter does when I tell her a bad dad joke. She just says, "Dad," and then she ignores me. And I think that's what you have to do with jokes.
Now that's an important point you make, and I want to put that to Kushal Mehra because it doesn't matter what anybody watching this broadcast really thinks of Kunal Kamra's jokes. The question is, do you think that he should be charged with an FIR, or should you just look away and say, oh, if you really like what he cracked, then just laugh, and if not, just look the other way? Why go after him with the full force of the law?
Yeah, good evening, Rahul, and good evening to everyone else. My stand has been very consistent when it comes to free speech. I believe free speech is not meant for things that you like to hear. It's actually meant for things that you don't like to hear. I'm not a fan of Kunal Kamra. I've actually blocked him a long time ago, and I kind of share Anand's sentiments when it comes to Kunal Kamra. But what worries me in this entire episode, that there is a trend in India right from the day of Nehru, as Anand rightfully pointed out, that it was Jawaharlal Nehru who got in, the First Amendment. And other than Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, nobody really has supported free speech in India. Even the current BJP does not really stand for free speech like Shyama Prasad Mukherjee did. The deification of politicians in this country is a very concerning trend for me. Now we just keep on, adding to the list of deities that cannot be criticized in this country. And the politicians are the latest deities in this country that you just cannot mock them. And if we are going down this line, I don't know who else is there. Either the political class of this country should get together and give us a list as to what we can mock, what we can't mock, which leads to hurt sentiments, which does not lead to hurt sentiments. Then maybe everybody, whether it's me as a podcaster, whether there are other comics or anybody, right, satirists, then they know what's the road they have been given. Here the problem is the Constitution says subject to public morality, reasonable restrictions, and then if nothing works, a mob comes and just smashes up your hotel. I just don't understand what the Habitat did. The Habitat sin was they platformed a place. Well, planet Earth platformed the Habitat. तो क्या हम क्या Habitat में खड्डा खोद देंगे क्या Earth में? So I don't know what's happening.
Advaita Kala, Eknath Shinde hasn't been called a traitor the first time. He's been called a traitor by Uddhav Thackeray. He gets called traitor by Sanjay Raut, by Aditya Thackeray day in and day out. Nobody files an FIR against them. Kunal Kamra cracks that same old political joke, and he has the full fury of the law coming after him.
Right, Rahul. At least, we know that he lacks originality, if nothing else. I think, he's certainly somebody who does weaponize politics, and rather, let me reverse that. He weaponizes stand-up comedy to make political points. He does that very often. So I think we shouldn't be deluded by what he does and what he's attempting to do. And I would also like to say he has every right to do that. So that's where it's at. You can pretty much call out what he's doing, which is weaponizing stand-up comedy, essentially a political hit job. Hasn't said anything worse than politicians say to each other. But is it something that he should be facing an FIR for? No, I don't think so. Is it something that he should be facing jail time for? No, I don't think so. Are we kind of elevating him to some kind of comedy gold material because of this? I think it's ridiculous. I mean, in Chennai right now, you had some people barge into a YouTuber's home and attack his old mother, pour sewage. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about this particular instance of a public space, but we're not talking about something that's happened in the same time frame. In fact, more recently, inside somebody's home. So I think this kind of selective outrage that we also have is problematic. And here's the thing, we live in the attention economy. We live in the outrage economy. Kunal Kamra, we haven't heard from him in a long time. And the first time we hear from him is because of this, not because of comedy, not because of the material he's using, but the fact that he's gone ahead and shown a red rag to people who are very, very happy to spot a red rag and have been known to do this. So
no, but what I don't understand is there are jokes in that same clip against Prime Minister Modi, there are jokes against billionaires. Nobody else seems to have reacted. It's only Eknath Shinde who got all worked up. Rajiv Nigam, what do you make of it? It's not as if Eknath Shinde has not been called a traitor earlier. There are jokes and arguably worse jokes about others. They seem to have ignored it. It's only Eknath Shinde and people around him who seem very charged up.
देखने वाली बात यह है कि फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच की जब हम लोग बात करते हैं, ये कॉमेडियन हैं जो हंसने हंसाने के लिए समाज और सोसाइटी से अपने कंटेंट को ऑब्जर्व करके लेकर के आते हैं, और उन्होंने जो कुछ भी बोला वो मार्केट में वो वर्ड्स, वो टर्म्स ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्ट करते हैं, उन्हीं को हम लोग उठाते हैं, करते हैं। लेकिन एक टॉलरेंस भी तो होनी चाहिए। हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर हमेशा बोलते हैं कि हमें क्रिटिसिज्म बहुत पसंद है। मैं चाहता हूं कि लोग मुझे क्रिटिसाइज़ करें। हमारे मोदी जी ने कई बार ये बात बोली है। तो ये क्रिटिसिज्म भी हमारे लोकतंत्र के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है। लेकिन समझने वाली बात ये है कि उस क्रिटिसिज्म को आप कैसे रिसीव करते हैं। क्या किसी का टारगेट ये है कि आपको कोई डिस्टर्ब करना चाहता है, आपकी इमेज को कोई डैमेज करना चाहता है? नहीं, एक कॉमेडियन की कम से कम इतनी मनसा तो नहीं होती है। और रही बात फ्रीडम ऑफ
no, but respond, Rajiv ji, respond to what you're hearing from the likes of Anand Ranganathan and from Advaita Khala, that this is his bent of mind, that if he has a particular political position, if he's going to constantly attack the same worldview, then there will be a pushback, because ultimately he went on Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra. He's been advocating a certain set of causes, and therefore it's only natural that there will be a pushback. He's got some politics. Those with opposite politics will naturally be unhappy with him.
So what? Maybe राहुल गांधी के साथ यात्रा में गए, मैं भी बहुत सारे लोगों के साथ कभी रूरल पार्टी बीजेपी के फंक्शन में भी जाता हूं, कभी दूसरी पार्टी के फंक्शन में जाता हूं, और भारत जोड़ो यात्रा थी। कल को ऐसी कोई यात्रा अगर बीजेपी निकाल रही है, कई बार नोन लोग होते हैं, लोग बुलाते हैं कि इवेंट होता है तो लोग जाते हैं। इसके बाद में ये एज्यूम करना कि ये पर्टिकुलर पार्टी से हैं, तो ये लोग एज्यूम कर सकते हैं। और दूसरी बात, इससे पहले भी, अभी की बात छोड़िए आप, इससे पहले भी आज़ादी के बाद से आज तक होता आया है कि जब किसी ने भी कोई जोक, कोई क्रैक किया या कुछ भी बोला, तो हमेशा लोगों ने, पॉलिटिकल लोगों ने अपनी सहूलियत के हिसाब से उसको अपने लेवल पे बोलना शुरू किया है कि ये फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच की लाइन को ये लोग क्रॉस कर रहे हैं। आज भी वही हो रहा है। नेहरू जी ने भी कई बार ऐसे मौके पर बोला है, इंदिरा जी के ऊपर बहुत सारे व्यंग हुए हैं, कटाक्ष हुए हैं, ममता बनर्जी जी की बात हो रही थी। तो जहाँ पर अलग अलग स्टेट में जब उन्हें लगता है तब वो लोग रिएक्ट करते हैं। वही आज भी हो रहा है। आज की भी डिबेट कोई नई डिबेट नहीं है, ये सालों से ऐसी डिबेट होती आ रही है। लेकिन फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच का ये बाउंड्री कौन तय करेगा, कौन फिक्स करेगा? एक बंदा पार्लियामेंट के अंदर खड़े होकर के एब्यूजिव वर्ड बोलता है अपने साथी सांसद को, मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट को, है ना, और एक विधानसभा के अंदर कोई एक मेंबर, वहाँ का मेंबर कुछ हमारे प्राइम मिनिस्टर के बारे में बोलता है, लेकिन आप पार्लियामेंट के अंदर, आप विधानसभा के अंदर एक कवच के अंदर रह कर आप कुछ भी बोल सकते हैं, लेकिन बाहर एक कॉमेडियन कुछ नहीं बोल सकता.
No, but that's an important point. That's an important point Rajiv Nigam makes, because the fact is, Nasir Abdullah, nobody really knows what that fine line is. You know, to what extent can someone like a Kunal Kamra crack a joke? Where should he back off? Because there is no, and with humor, how can there be a clearly defined line? It's really for netas, in my view, to have a thicker skin and to be able to laugh off some of these jokes without having to react in this fashion.
Yeah, we will get to the fine line later. But what I'm saying is Kunal Kamra has refused to apologize. So here is the truth about Mr. Kamra. He has apparently spoken the truth. There was some kind of a conspiracy to dislodge the Uddhav Thackeray government, etc., etc. So why should one have to apologize for having spoken the truth? If it was the truth and it was spoken by many other people, and the Janta as a whole knows all about it. Okay, that is one thing I want to say. What, are we allowed to speak the truth? We speak of Satyameva Jayate and may truth prevail. So in a comedy thingy, he has said his bit. What is the big deal? They should be able to take it in their light. Okay, this is the way politics works. People are bought off, people go to the other side. That's another story. But the other side of the matter is that the BJP folks and other folks have really distributed, you know, they're always after Nehru. The poor guy died in 1964. They're still calling him a dictator and all that. Never mind. But what I'm saying is they are constantly ridiculing the people from the Congress party. For example, Mr. Pramod Mahajan, 20 years ago, called Sonia Gandhi the Monica Lewinsky of India. Very shameful sort of a thing to say, because we know what she was all about. She was young enough to be the daughter of President Clinton at that time. There was a big scandal, but to equate Sonia Gandhi, and they do that, and they get away. But we can't say, because we are not in power. We are soft targets. If he has spoken the truth, it is the truth, and you say it's okay. Yeah, this happens in politics. We do this stuff. We move over. We have to be protected. We have to be kidnapped. We have to be offered more. Whatever happens, it's a fact. It happened. So why should he apologize for having spoken the truth is my question. Really?
Anand Ranganathan, in your opening comments, you alluded to Kunal Kamra's political point of view. The fact is, should that matter? I mean, he has a very clear set of politics. Shouldn't people be able to disregard that? I mean, ignore him, listen to him, maybe even protest or tweet or comment against him? How does it matter? You know, and you made that point that an FIR is not okay, but it almost seems as if he's being targeted by those in power in Maharashtra because they don't like his politics.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he has a very clear political stand. He is, sympathetic, or indeed might be a leftist and Congressy, or now with the Uddhav part of the Shiv Sena. And that's absolutely fine. But, by the logic the previous panelists made, that we are still talking about the dictatorship of Nehru. Nehru died 50 years ago. By that logic, we should not be talking about the dictatorship of Stalin or Mao, because they also died at the same time. Let's not talk about that. What is wrong is wrong. The person who set in laws that stifled our free speech has to be exposed. Let's not come about saying, oh my God, don't say anything about Nehru because he is Nehru, holier than thou. No. What is wrong is wrong. Now, I believe there should be no line drawn, Rahul, when you're talking about where does one draw the line between free speech and dissent. No, there should not be any line. But of course, I have to say this, free speech absolutism, like what I profess, comes with a few commonsensical exceptions. For example, in the name of free speech, you can't divulge state secrets. You can't scream fire in a crowded theater because that physically harms people. You can't incite and lead a mob to violence. You can't defame someone's reputation with false details. That's where defamation suit comes in. All else is kosher. There should be no line.
Absolutely. You should be able to take a joke, laugh if you feel like, or just ignore him. Nasir Abdullah is getting really charged up. He wants to respond to what he's hearing from Anand Ranganathan, so I'm going to give him the opportunity to do that.
Okay. Yeah, you speak of free speech, sir, free speech, but there are the restrictions. And here is the deal. He has not horribly, and this is the deal, the Shiv Sena and all they are known for indulging in violence. I've been watching it for 40 years. Nikhil Wagre, a columnist in Bombay, his office was like ransacked because he made some statement. The Shiv Sena, they plundered him. So this is gundagardi, man. Grow up. Be nice, be cool, talk to the guy, and you go to his office and beat up the entire place, smash the whole place. This is goddamn hooliganism, man. Where are you guys living? If you need to go by the law, go by the law. No, this is lawlessness, hundagardi. They come and smash up the place, they set fire, they beat up people. Where are you going? You call this law, and this is the way to deal with free speech? What is the big deal? He has made a comical comment on a situation that happened, and it's true. Mr. Shinde went into a conspiracy with other folks, hid his number, had his fun, so why can't somebody talk about it? Everybody knows, the public knows. They're not stupid, but they've got better things to do. They want to go to work, they want to have their little whatever. They don't want to get involved because they said, "ठीक है, politics में ऐसा होता है, करने दो हमारा क्या?"
Okay, Rasik Chopra, we heard from some stand-up comedians yesterday who made the argument that in today's day and age, comedians like Kunal Kamra know that if they go down a certain path, that there could be a real-world backlash. The charge was that someone like a Kunal Kamra did this deliberately. He knows that he's flirting with trouble. He wants to do this because he wants publicity. He wants to be in the limelight. How do you respond to those like Jivishu Aluwali who made that point?
I don't know Kunal, so I can't speak his mind. What I can tell you is that all the comics I know and the ones I admire, the first people we laugh at is ourselves. And the reason we do that is to say that, look, I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. The world's not perfect. And maybe if we laugh about it, it'll be a little easier to bear, right? And one of the first things we train for as a comic is to deal with a heckler. Now, there's two ways to deal with a heckler. One is to get really angry and say, "You're an idiot, get out of here." And the other is to say, "Joke's on you, buddy. You paid to be here. And you can leave, and I promise you, you'll get your money used to fuel my drinking habit," right? So I think this is the art form. The art form is making jokes, and the art form should therefore be received in a similar way. Now, 3 years ago, almost to the date, when Chris Rock got up on the stage of the Oscars and made a joke that I think was in poor taste about Will Smith's wife, Will Smith got up and slapped him, and as a result, Chris Rock made lots of money at his next show, and Will Smith had to come to India and pay penance, right? So I think even from a strategic perspective, if you're on the receiving end of a joke, it makes more sense to be Chris Rock than it does Will Smith. So if you decide to be the Will Smith character in the joke, then chances are you're the one who's going to suffer, and you're going to elevate the comedian to a status that he's probably not even looking for. And if he is looking for it, well, that's his politics and that's his life. But if you call it a joke, which is what he's calling it, you're probably better off.
Kushal, may I respond to this? The fact that someone like a Kunal Kamra gets this kind of airspace, mind space, and therefore becomes bigger than he otherwise would have been. And in that sense, he's not backing down. So he comes across to his followers as some kind of a hero, and he's got a lot of mind space which he otherwise simply wouldn't have had if Eknath Shinde hadn't reacted.
Yeah, I agree. The Streisand effect is very much in play over here, and that's what. But the Streisand effect equally applies to the political parties. Rahul, the incentivization in India is of hooliganism, and it's not just what Mr. Abdullah was saying, a kind of party. Congress workers had ransacked, if I remember the name of the story, it was Storia Foods in Mumbai over an advertisement that was allegedly mocking Rahul Gandhi. And at that time, I remember there was a tweet by Bhai Jagtap. He was sharing the video at that time. So this is in Mumbai, by the way. Mumbai Mirror mein ye aaya tha. It was in 2021. Then last year, the Tamil Nadu Congress had said, "Oh, you are denigrating Mr. Pandit Nehru, who is admired by world leaders," and they had demanded the arrest of a comedian, Balaji. So this is not new. This is a pan-India problem. And see, either we stand for the principle, then it's a different. And I don't care what Kunal Kamra's political affiliations are. I think it doesn't matter. Kunal is entitled to his political biases. Who cares about that? The problem over here, Rahul, is Anand is right. The law is the problem. The law itself is a problem in this country. We, keep talking around in circles like a jalebi about isne wo bola, usne wo bola. Bhai, law hai na, law nahi hota na to ye sab nahi hoga. The problem is today the state, irrespective of the political party, can use 295A, 153A, 124, the sedition law, and many other laws, and they can just destroy your life. And अगर कुछ नहीं हुआ तो BMC तो बैठी ही है क्योंकि हर आदमी ने कोई म्युनिसिपैलिटी का लॉ तोड़ा है इंडिया में. So that is the problem in India.
Rahul, can I just make a quick comment?
Let Anand Ranganathan come and make a quick point. Yes, sir.
Yes, we talked about the law, but let's also, with due respect to the stand-ups, and we have one here, wonderful person, let's not brush all the hypocrisy of these chaps under the carpet. When they say we make jokes about everyone, I'm sorry, you don't. You make jokes about Hinduism and Hindus, but you shirk away from making jokes about Islam. Kunal Kamra deleted his tweets about jokes on Muslims and Islam. Same was AIB. They had to grovel an apology in front of a priest for what they'd said about Christianity. Same with MF Hussain, who said that I apologize for if I may have offended Islam. This is the reality. All you guys who say that we make jokes about everyone are the biggest double standard carrying hypocrites. You don't have guts because you are afraid of Sar Tan Se Juda. That's the honest truth. If you don't accept it, that's fine by me. But then you're a hypocrite.
Let Nasir Abdullah respond to this charge of hypocrisy that certain kinds of joke in anticipation of people being liberal are okay, but certain other kinds of jokes against some other religions are simply self-centered because you know the kind of calamitous consequences that will follow. Nasir Abdullah.
No problem. No.
Nasir?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I was. Anand Ranganathan says comedians are hypocritical because there are certain kinds of jokes they simply self-censor on.
Yeah, but I think the main point is this. Look what has happened. Kunal has spoken the truth about a so-called like a conspiracy, which he has with his other friend, and they moved on. So this guy joked about it in a comedy show about other issues as well. He wrapped it up all well. He has spoken the truth. It is true. There was something happening. Now, why should he apologize? And why should he be jailed? He has spoken the truth. He's a bit of a mini Gandhi, but, a bit of an aggressive Gandhi, maybe but he has spoken the truth. Please remember, are we allowed to speak the truth and use it in a comedy thingy? Who will decide what we'll choose on? We can't touch the politicians, however corrupt they may be. We can't touch them because they will come to our office and destroy our office. Gunda Raj will happen and the law has no face to show. The law will not control this. They will allow it. So here's what is wrong with the law, okay? Why don't you use the law to deal with it? Why do you first attack this venue and destroy it? Destroy it because that's what these guys are known for doing. They have a history of 35 years. I've been watching since 1987.
No, but let Advaita Kala respond to the charge of hypocrisy. For example, most comedians would not crack jokes on judges. I mean, how many people have cracked jokes on the judge against whom so much cash was found? They'll just be very careful because judge ye jail dal dega. But okay, a politician, so there is a certain element of hypocrisy. The fact is, against particular religions, they'll be very wary because of the kind of consequences there are globally. Against some other religions, theek hai, thoda mazak uda ke dekhte.
I mean, Charlie Hebdo, we saw what happened there, right? Yeah. I mean, it was technically, if you're speaking, it's a satirical magazine. It was a cartoon, but we saw what happened. So there is this delineation, and I think there is. So when we do this big talk about self-censorship and things like that, people are already doing it. They are already doing it. This is not some big fight that we're fighting right now. It exists, and people have been doing it for years for the fear of very real consequences. And frankly, I think, I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier. This is the attention economy. We're unfortunately part of the same circus because we're discussing this. And the bottom line is that this is something that was done for attention. It received attention. Some of it was negative, which was the smashing of that venue. And some of it is positive, like all of us discussing it here and bringing that name in circulation. And frankly, that's what it's about.
No, but how is it positive? You're saying it's positive for Kunal Kamra. The fact is that more and more brands and studios will be wary of associating with him. So I'm not sure how you think of this as being positive. So he gets some more YouTube likes and followers, sure. But if he doesn't get platforms, doesn't get sponsors, doesn't get big stages, then that's a problem.
Rahul, that's the thing, right? If you think entertainment today is not being weaponized and people are not being funded to take certain positions and create certain types of content, then I think I need to, bring that to the fore, that this is definitely happening. So if you're looking at the economic model as only being sponsorships and venue hosting you, that in today's economy, that's a very narrow way of looking at it. There are outfits that will fund this kind of content and will pay good money for it. So, let's not be naive about what's going on here. That's the only thing I want to say. And I reiterate, there's no need to file any kind of FIR or send anyone to jail for this. But let's also call out what it is.
Okay, all guests have spoken. My view generally is, don't like a joke, just look the other way. Just let it be. You file this FIR, you give the man publicity, he becomes much more of a star than he would have been if you just ignored the joke that he cracked. I'm out of time. Thank you for joining us. You've heard different points of view. As always on the NewsTrack, I'll leave it to you to decide who you think had the more compelling argument. A Supreme Court appointed panel of 3 judges has started probing allegations against Delhi High Court's Justice Yashwant Verma after unaccounted cash was found at his residence following a fire incident. Meanwhile, the Allahabad High Court Bar Association has called for an indefinite strike against the SC Collegium's decision to relocate Justice Verma to his parent court.
The probe into the alleged cash haul at a Delhi High Court judge's house gathers steam. The 3-judge panel appointed by the Chief Justice of India visited Justice Yashwant Verma's residence on Tuesday.
Sources informed India Today that probe committee comprising Chief Justices of Punjab and Haryana High Court, Karnataka High Court and Himachal Pradesh High Court had arrived here, and in fact they spent around 45 minutes inquiring about the incident. In fact, they also recorded statement of Justice Verma and in fact also visited the exact spot or the exact room that had caught fire and where this alleged recovery of burned cash notes was made.
The Supreme Court Collegium has recommended transfer of Justice Yashwant Verma to the Allahabad High Court, but the decision has triggered protest. The Allahabad High Court Bar Association has begun an indefinite strike, raising concerns over allegations of corruption against the judge.
हमारी ये लड़ाई इसलिए हो रही है कि मेरे यहाँ जो हार्ड वर्किंग ऑनेस्ट जजेस हैं, आज उनकी छवि खतरे में पड़ी हुई है। इलाहाबाद हाई कोर्ट को डंपिंग ग्राउंड समझ लिया है। जो भी होगा उसको आप यही करप्शन के चार्ज पे कहीं कोई जज को ट्रांसफर किया किसी डाउट पे, तो इलाहाबाद इज ए हाई कोर्ट वहां ट्रांसफर कर दो।
Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar called a meeting of floor leaders to discuss the cash haul.
I have scheduled a meeting after seeking convenience at 4:30 p.m. today with the floor leaders as suggested by Leader of the Opposition and agreed to by Leader of the House. I am sure we will have very fruitful interaction and find a way out.
The opposition raised the issue in Parliament.
In-house procedure of the judicial system is concurrent and independent to what Parliament does. And the constitutional procedure with regard to the oversight of judiciary has been laid down very explicitly in the Constitution of India. If the Law Minister does not make a statement to Parliament, he would be in violation of constitutional propriety.
The cash was recovered on March 14 when a fire broke out at Justice Verma's residence. The Supreme Court later posted videos of burning cash submitted by the Delhi police.
Mr. Justice Yashwant Verma.
Justice Verma, in response to Delhi High Court Chief Justice, dismissed any link to the cash. With Nalini Sharma and Rahul Gautam, Bureau Report, India Today.
Days before Donald Trump's reciprocal tariff kicks in, US trade official Brendan Lynch is on a visit to India. He'll be holding talks with Indian Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal. besides meeting a number of senior Indian officials. It is learned that Indian officials are hoping to discuss the possibility of a temporary reciprocal tariff waiver. Trump himself has declared that some countries may be exempt from reciprocal tariffs.
As the clock ticks to Donald Trump's reciprocal tariffs, a high-powered U.S. trade delegation led by Brendan Lynch, the U.S. trade representative for South and Central Asia, reached Delhi this afternoon. Its 5-day mission in India to find a solution to the trade tariff standoff. The visit comes even as a report by Reuters says that an internal analysis by the government has estimated that reciprocal tariffs would hit 87% of India's total exports to the United States, worth $66 billion. The report adds that India is open to reducing tariffs on 55% of the goods it imports from the US. These goods are subject to tariffs ranging from 5% to 30%. India is said to be ready to substantially lower tariffs or even scrap some entirely. This, however, the report says, hinges on the US waiving off its reciprocal tariff. This comes on top of the overall reduction in import duties in Budget 2025. According to a government statement in Parliament, the simple average industrial tariff has reduced to 10.66% from 13.5% in 2023. The Finance Ministry has also introduced an amendment in the Finance Bill to reduce taxes on online ads, in a big relief to Google, Meta and X.
Clarificatory amendments in the provisions for IFSC's provisions and presumptive taxation for service providers for electronic manufacturing units is also being brought in as government amendment. And a third one, for clarity and consistency, a government amendment is coming in for small changes in the block assessment provisions. And then the 6% equalization levy, which was being proposed, which was in effect for advertisement and other things, is being proposed to be removed, so that we can address the uncertainty in the international economic conditions.
Indian equity markets, meanwhile, rose for a 7th straight session on Tuesday in hopes of diluted reciprocal tariffs. Fears over the sweeping tariffs seem to have lessened with US President Donald Trump's latest remarks that signal a softer stance than before. In what could be the latest recalibration of tariffs by Trump, he said several countries could get breaks.
April 2nd comes, that'll be reciprocal tariffs. But we may take less than what they're charging because they've charged us so much. I don't think they could take it. In other words, they've charged us so much that I'm embarrassed to charge them what they've charged us. But it'll be substantial. And you'll be hearing about that on April 2nd.
Trump, meanwhile, played another tariff card, threatening a 25% tariff on any country that buys oil or gas from Venezuela. According to an executive order signed on Monday, those tariffs will take effect on or after April 2nd. India is one of the big importers of Venezuelan crude oil and could face additional worries on this front. Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
China's BYD has dethroned Tesla as the world's top electric vehicle seller. The numbers are jaw-dropping. In 2024, BYD raked in $107 billion, selling 4.3 million vehicles, more than double Tesla's 1.79 million. BYD's stock price also reached an all-time peak this month after it unveiled new battery technology that it said allowed a vehicle to travel up to 470 kilometers after charging for just 5 minutes.
He's been hogging the limelight as the US president's influence in chief. From being included in Donald Trump's inner circle to being handed an axe to trim the size of the US government, Elon Musk has been riding a tide of personal success. However, that's not the case with his iconic electric car brand Tesla. In a stunning shift in the electric vehicle market, China's BYD has surged past Tesla, claiming the top spot in global sales. According to latest reports, Chinese automaker BYD recorded a staggering $107 billion in revenue for 2024, eclipsing Tesla's $97.7 billion. BYD sold nearly 4.3 million vehicles last year, a mix of fully electric and hybrid models, dwarfing Tesla's 1.79 million pure EV deliveries. That is more than double of Tesla's output, a gap that's turning heads worldwide. In China alone, BYD's dominance is clear. Last month, the company sold over 318,000 vehicles, a 161% jump from the year before, while Tesla's sales in the same market dropped nearly 50% to just 30,000 units. So what's driving the BYD surge? Analysts point to BYD's affordable pricing. Models like the Seal EV start at just $12,000, paired with cutting-edge technology like their new 1,000 kilowatt charging system, twice as fast as Tesla's superchargers. BYD has also mastered vertical integration, building their own batteries and software, while offering prices that Tesla cannot match. BYD is also accelerating its global push with record exports last month. Meanwhile, Tesla faces challenges. Sales in Europe dropped 45% this year, and its China slump continues. The markets are reacting too. BYD stock has soared 37% this year, while Tesla's has plummeted over 27% in 2025, reflecting investor confidence in BYD's momentum. Closer to home, the India experience tells a stark story for the two companies. Tesla's been knocking on India's door for years, tangled in high import duties, once 110%, now eased to 15%, and demands for local manufacturing. Meanwhile, BYD's is already cruising Indian roads, with models like the Atto 3 gaining traction since 2022, capitalizing on affordability and a head start in the world's third largest auto market. Bureau Report, Business Today TV.
This is where I wrap up the NewsTrack tonight. For your time and your trust, thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Till then, from all of us here, bye. Good night.